So but I want to save it for the field. I don't want to talk about Demeter in our pre-show chat, but I do think that we should use our pre-show chat to at least lock in that we are doing Dix the musical for next month.
Tommy hasn't seen this because he was in the movie when you brought it up. So
I've
Tommy,
heard of Dix the music. What is it?
Go to Discord and just watch the trailer quickly.
It's the new
September
A24 film coming on September 29th.
And who is the woman that plays the lady boss in it?
Oh,
I think she's a recording artist.
Oh yeah, she totally is. What's her name?
Is it? I don't want to get it wrong. So that's why I'm not saying.
Hang on.
But I think it's somebody.
It's totally somebody, and I can't. And when I see that person, I always have to go through all the list of female hip hop artists.
And this is Trevor Brock.
It's
my cock is fucking
Megan
massive. It always leaves the lady sore.
Money just keeps rolling in. The good times never stop. I would see anything with Meg Mullally.
A man like me, and I'll always be on top.
Greg Tittle, Trevor Brock, my two top
literally the hair on my leg.
You two motherfuckers look like y'all could be twins.
I like her so
much. She look very dissimilar.
Come here, you doing audio too? Okay.
The only thing I have from the
I just like watching you watch this trailer.
We must be brothers.
Not just brothers, Trevor. Twins. Wow, we're twins. We're fucking identical twins.
If Mom and Dad got married again, then we'd have a real family.
What if we trick them into getting back together?
What are you
how we did really well and we picked really well. Why?
Y'all just servants. This is my palace built in brick by brick. So get in the line, drop on your knees, and suck my fucking dick.
That is a choice for September. I think.
Should I open another bottle? I know it's our second, but we're not Pepsi.
I have the voice that we can
Should we drown them in the bathtub in the old-fashioned way?
Y'all fucked up.
I'm gay. Queer as a $3 bill and just a spin. Life's a fucking hand job, and I only play to win.
Big,
God.
next week.
Nice. We're gonna podcast.
Have an
more.
awesome.
Wow, a lady boss. I guess it really is the year that it is.
You think he's made a call on it yet?
I'm so sorry. Did you say
He's still thinking hard. He still doesn't know what. I wonder if he's watching the same thing we watched.
Disgusting.
I had much more Glee on my phone. Did you see who? Did you see who did this?
What the hell is it?
It's amazing, right?
So it
Oh,
was
it's Larry
written,
Charles. That's
it's Larry
interesting.
Charles. That's right.
Who is Aaron Jackson and Josh Sharp? Did I know them from something else?
Well, they're the two dicks in the musical.
Based on the musical stage play, Fucking Identical Twins, the musical.
I love it.
They wrote the book, and they wrote the lyrics and the screenplay.
Looks like they're. I don't know. They did National Lampoon's Radio Hour. They did. Let's see. So they're Broad City. 30 Nothings, Janice Gunter, Ghost Hunter. So they've done a lot of shorts and series.
So they're those guys.
They were on the Chris Gethard public access show and played the role Jesus Christ Razorblade Tuna Fish motherfucker. So you might have known him from that.
And it is Megan Thee Stallion.
Yes.
Yes.
Did we already say
and
that?
Meg Mullally. It's like a double pack. It's one.
It's perfect.
I'm totally down because I'm down for anything A24, and it's the fact that it's A24's first musical sounds great.
That was exactly why I didn't even know what to think about it, but it's A24 logo on it, so I'm okay.
And so let's plan on recording on Saturday the 30th.
Yes, that would be great. And then I can get it out the 30th, or do we have a 31st this month?
Not in September, you do
Dang.
not. But yeah, there is one in August. There is not one in September.
Okay, well.
Dick's musical record TBD. Great.
Well, maybe we record early and we do it maybe same day. I don't know.
Either way, I'll be late.
Whatever you think. Yeah. Very funny.
Okay.
Cool. We have to make, and we should check too, as we're saying this. I love that we're all agreeing to it. I think that's wonderful. I think it's going to be awesome to talk about. But we need to make sure that it's available in Oregon.
Oh, right.
All the Puritans. You think the Puritans are going to?
Well, not so, just, I think small and, make sure that it's available.
Yeah. Okay. So,
okay.
I'm just adding it.
Dicks. We're going to watch some dicks.
Are we ready?
I'm ready.
The Film Board gathers. The gang of thugs is here to take on a movie currently in theaters. And this month, we have a movie with no beginning and no ending. But does it have any stakes? as the internet wonders? Or is there actually some meat on those bones? We're setting sail on the last voyage of the Demeter.
The Demeter, on charter from Romania to London. Shipping private crates. Contents unknown. Out at sea with no land in sight.
This here is Clemens. He's a doctor.
You dress like a learned man.
University of Cambridge. I know my way around the boat.
Our charter has agreed to pay a bonus for timely arrival in London.
Let me show you the ship. This here is Huckleberry. We don't come with like this to give the ewes clear.
Demeter's a fine boat, no doubt.
Something ripped apart the animals.
All the livestock?
This looks like a bite.
Search the ship. Everywhere. Evil is on board. Powerful evil.
Y'all, we've seen a lot of movies around these parts, but I have to say, this is the first adaptation I can remember that is based on a single chapter of a book. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm joined by literary hounds Justin J.J. Jaeger and Tommy Metz III, and we're deep in the season of counter-programming here on the Film Board. With a true return to form, the Film Board is talking about a box office bomb. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi. We did it again. The boys are back in town to do it again. Film Board style.
Oh, dear.
We can't work contrary to our MO for too long.
You can give us a little tasty snack, but eventually we're going to come right back to get clogged, arteries clogged, please. Emergency resuscitation inbound. What did you think of this movie, The Last Voyage of the Demeter? And we should say, I'll give you a little bit of a story overview in a minute, but we should say it was based on the Captain's Log chapter of Bram Stoker's Dracula. I didn't see Bram Stoker in here at all, and I was looking. No. So what'd you think of this fair adaptation, JJ?
Well, I have to ask you guys, especially Tommy, but to the people that like scary movies out there in the world, or like vampire movies in the world, which I don't know that that's your particular cup of tea, Tommy. What would prompt you to want to see this aspect or this chapter, which you said, Pete, to this story? I don't know. It's kind of like I just need to. I'm assuming, because I haven't seen any of them. I haven't seen the Bram Stoker. I haven't seen, because I've only recently found a new appetite or awareness for horror in general. So I go to this movie thinking,
this is something I can sink my teeth in.
Yeah, this is, there's some sort of, see, I wasn't thinking. But but I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is connected to the classic. This is something and all this stuff. And then it just really was just another thing that was really that there really wasn't anything to it. So I know even now, with being open to seeing horror, there really wasn't much for me here. So I want to know from someone who loves horror, and if you can put yourself in the mind of someone who loves the vampire theme, like why would anyone want to see this movie? Anyone?
AJ's coming in hot.
Coming in hot. I do not care about vampires. I'm not a classicist, so I don't care about them as a monster. But I really liked the idea of this because I liked contained pieces, and it seemed like it would be Alien on a boat.
Yes.
Like just sort of slowly picking, and that's very intriguing. If you can successfully make a boat, an old-timey boat, like a haunted house, and make it just sort of start picking people off and getting people paranoid and stuff, there's a lot of grounds for interest there. Instead, they made The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which takes none of the fun parts of vampire lore, like none of the cool, he shows up as humanoid at the end. They keep him in Nosferatu, and he's just a creature the whole time. One of the things, and then it's just so right over home plate, like there's no ingenuity. There's no new things. It's just, it's like they haven't seen a horror movie in a long time, and they think we're still making horror movies like this. To that end, I thought, actually, if it wasn't so needlessly and relentlessly gory, it would be kind of a fun entrance into horror for people that had never watched horror, because it's just like a very straight up and down monster movie. But instead they do hateful things to a young child, and it's like really gross for no reason. Like they just sit on things as if they've made it and they were like, oh, we're not going far enough scary, so let's just make it really gross. So no.
And I can tell you, as someone who recently is the person that you're talking about, it's definitely not that.
No, it's not. But you can see it could have been.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why that's why I actually showed excitement when we chose it last month, this kind of thing, because all of those things you mentioned, especially the haunted house part, like those things that I know that you love.
Yeah.
I thought there was a potential for that here, but I definitely did not get that at all.
No.
How about you, Pete?
Well, I don't think I didn't like it as much as you guys didn't like it.
Oh,
I think I didn't like it less than you didn't like it, but I didn't love it. I went into it with the same sort of optimism that Tommy had, like the idea that they were taking an underexplored element from a classic work of literature that has never really been thoroughly explored in film, because, films, it's like, we'll talk about it. Like this movie, this script was based on working on the model of the Demeter for Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1993. That's when this script was started by our fair
that long
writers.
ago?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it. Just hang tight.
Just wait.
But that's what I mean. Like the idea of taking something like this and exploding it into something more, I think would be great.
Cool idea, right?
And I'll tell you when I got worried. Opening frame. Yeah, I don't love framing devices. Anytime I get a framing device that shows me the end of the movie and then bookends it to the middle of the movie, I get kind of frustrated. And my first thought is, could they have made the movie without a framing device and had it been better? Because the opening felt like a vaudeville type thriller. It felt like the overacted, overpresented, like everything The Lighthouse did, but like for comedy. Like I just didn't get into it at all. And the whole mood of go blimey, get the constable, we got a ship run aground, and that was like that whole vibe. It turned me off. But then we transitioned to the ship and the dock and the loading and the carrying the weird, like suspiciously coffin-shaped crates to the boat. Like all of those things, I felt like, okay, it's a little more grounded. Maybe I can get into it. And I felt optimism. So I felt like the some of the jump scares worked for me. I think generally the character design of Nosferatu type vampire worked for me. I don't love that it stayed that way the whole time. I'm with Tom. Like it just felt like that's where lack of ingenuity played. But overall, I got what they wanted to do. I just didn't love how they delivered it. And that's where it falls short. Let me just do my little presentation of the story, if I may.
Yes. Very good.
But do it like epistolary, like do it as if you're writing home from abroad.
So I should have in the background,
like a ship's log or something.
Yeah, we should totally have like scratching fountain pen on parchment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I love it.
All right. Please stand by. Let me get my gear and I'll shuffle some. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, fully.
On August 6th, 1897, the merchant ship Demeter crashes ashore in England, leaving behind a captain's log and sparking a macabre tale. 4 weeks earlier, the ship had picked up mysterious crates in Bulgaria, leading to a series of strange and deadly events. After Clemens, a doctor and astronomer, joins the crew, he and his mates encounter a figure in the fog and discover a woman, Anna, buried within a fallen crate. As Clemens tries to save her, the ship's animals are killed, crew members begin dying mysteriously, and a local monster named Dracula emerges as the cause. About a dozen...
Monster.
About a...
Local man, Dracula, eats people.
About a dozen blood transfusions later, the crew dwindles and a third-act plan allows our bookended framing mechanism to meet once again off the coast of England, nary a Dracula in sight, as the movie closes with an epilogue chronicling the slow fade-out of box office franchise potential. The end. Does that about cover it?
Perfect. Very well done.
Wonderful.
Here's the other thing that I found frustrating about the movie is I like all of the people in it. And
yeah,
I felt like Corey Hawkins was great as our leader, as our leader of as the astronomer doctor himself. I thought he was fantastic. I didn't question his English accent at all. I just really thought he was great. And Liam Cunningham, our captain of the Demeter, is always someone I am magnetically drawn to. He has a face that it just exudes the presence on stage. I've loved him since he was in since we had him in Game of Thrones.
Was he also the captain in Titanic, or do they just happen to look alike?
They happen to look alike.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the facial hairstyle.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
David Dasmalkian, he's a creep in a lot of things, and he's suitably creepy here. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of my sense. This comes from, and I should say, I don't know who wants to take first crack at it, but we have been. I got a DM from Stig in our in our chat room in Discord, who said, I'm not going to be able to make it because it's 4 a.m. where I am when you guys are recording the live stream. But I just want you to know I can't wait for you guys to take a crack at saying the director's full name correctly in Norwegian. So does anybody want to take a stab at it?
Okay, I should do this.
You
I
really
had
should.
1 year of Norwegian camp as a young fifth grader.
Outstanding.
And André is not. This is who we're talking about, right?
André is not
right?
challenging. Yes, André.
André
We all
is
get
not
that.
a Norwegian.
No.
It's not a native Norwegian name, but so the O with the slash in it is kind of like an
Øvredal. Øvredal.
Close.
Øvredal. Øvredal.
Think of the R. This is my guess. I'd really like to hear from Stig on this.
Yep.
But it's kind of like a catch more than an R. So it's like Øvredal, I think. And I might be going more Danish than Norwegian
Fascinating.
in this. So
that is an
I
interesting
really want to hear
pronunciation.
from a Scandinavian friend.
Pronunciation
because,
time with JJ. Yes.
Again, 1 year of Norwegian camp, 3 years of Danish camp. So that changes it a little bit. And then 5 years at a Swedish company. So I have all of this weird Scandinavian manscape, but it's like Øvredal.
I don't know why we started with you. You're such a potpourri of Scandinavian languages. How do you say anything at all anymore? I don't even.
Skufjord.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Anyway,
the Google Translate. Here's my, the how to pronounce this at Forvo says André Øvredal. Øvredal.
Oh, close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bouncing sing-song.
There's a little bit of sing-song, so that's what I'm getting. I like André Øvredal myself. I think he's really great. And we actually did Troll Hunter on the show, which was a really, really fun movie. So I went into this, and this is when we picked it. I went in with high hopes.
And I've seen Autopsy of Jane Doe and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and both of those are legit.
Legit.
Okay, so then, this is great. So I love all the optimism. I had it too.
Yeah.
Even so, without all of the connecting tissue that you guys have, which I think is wonderful. So help me to see André and these other things in this movie. Where's the good in this movie? Because all of the things you've mentioned here, that it really just feels like a bookended standard, set them up and try to scare them thing.
Incredibly adequate.
Yeah,
that's
a
it.
great.
Yeah,
you nailed it.
Yeah,
that's perfect. Yeah,
and I can put the word disappointingly. Yeah. It never. And it also did the thing that you're not allowed to do in a monster movie. I was bored. I found myself looking around the third time someone's screaming Volchek on a boat that at times looked great and at times looked not good, soundstagey. And at times, the thing that distracted me was whenever you would see candlelight through a portal from inside, it always looked like really cheap haunted house lighting.
Yeah, it did.
So that fake flickering thing. I was like, really, guys?
The lighting to me at times felt really great. And at times felt really not good. It was really weird. So what it reminded me of was playing a video game that does a sort of fog of war thing, because so much is dark, right? The idea is that it's all dark. And sometimes it used it to great effect to say, especially when we were in the storage deck and all these kind of things of here is my complete visible universe as it moves through the space. And I think it did a good job of that. But then you're talking about, it wasn't consistent, and it was really, at times it was just, you miss it, right? That could have been something to play with the entire time. Also, the camera work was really rough for me, especially in the motion control stuff, because like when so many times in this movie, when they wanted to scare us or they wanted to give us the idea of something to dread in the world, they would give us a wide or like a landscape view of everything that we see outside. And the way that the camera moved in those sections was very inhuman, very almost like a digital pan,
Right.
digital tilt, this kind of thing that you could, it literally took me out of the human experience of what I was trying to watch.
Mhm.
And I didn't want that. I mean, I wanted at least to have a sense of being on the ship with them. And instead I was in the movie theater.
This was
you know?
100% supposed to be a handheld camera movie the entire time.
Yes.
The whole time. There's no reason, unless they were like, the ship does that for us, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Because
No,
when
that's
you
the problem.
move the
The ship
camera,
didn't.
yeah.
Just stay on the experience on the ship for a little bit. One of the things that surprised me, and I said I liked the opening bits, and part of the reason I liked the opening bits is because we saw a lot of the mechanics of the loading of the ship, and I thought that was cool. Like, why is that? Why I always think about this, like these cargo ships, why are they so big? Where do they put stuff? Because it invariably you end up in a ship and it's got like, tiny hallways, and there are doors off to staterooms and whatever rooms, and I don't know much about ships, but this one you see the belly of the ship as they load the cargo in, and I thought that was cool. I liked the presence in this unexplored space on this old wooden ship. And so for me, that felt like you're bringing me into the world in a way that was satisfying. And then the captain's log starts to read, right? We get a little bit of voiceover from the captain's log. And I actually find it forgivable in this movie because he's writing the captain's log as he's reading it, right? Like that.
And that is true to form. I mean,
yes.
that's one of the coolest things about Dracula is the entire thing is just letters, ledgers.
Right.
I think epistolary. I'm using that word a lot. I think
a lot. It feels very homey to you. Yeah. So when he talks then about how many people are on the ship, and I didn't write it down as I'm watching the movie, but it was like 5 crewmen, a chef, the captain, and the other guy, Vorchik, and then now we have Dr. Astronomer and the kid, right? I think it's just very few people on this pretty big ship, and I had never made a connection before about how many people it actually takes to run a ship, because my experience with ships at sea are like, our flag means death. There are like 40 guys on that ship. It's like huge. So that I thought was interesting. It added to the sense of desperation on the sea, right? It just, this is going to be hard because, as they say later, the more people we lose, like the less we're going to be able to hang out on watch, because,
right.
And that's going to impact us immediately. So all of the mechanics on the ship I thought were great. So why did, whenever we went to attack time with Vampy, why did that feel so impossible? Right? It felt impossible, even with as few people on the ship as there were early on. And they started, it felt like somebody's gonna come running, and no one hears anything.
The ship is the loudest ship in the world, and then it's also like covered in soundproofing, because you can hear someone go like this, but you can't hear someone do that with their face in a door. No, it was too small to have that many corners and inability to be able to see what's happening. That's what Alien had. Alien had shafts and things, and this was just
real distance.
Yeah, there's not enough room here on the ship to play the world's great. Like, you couldn't play hide and seek on that ship.
No. And yet the sin of the movie is that they pretended that you could, and we saw through it. That to me is the thing.
They tried to play both sides, because that whole knocking convention could have been something to use, but they did not. No. They just brought it in when it seemed like, I don't even want to say when it seemed appropriate.
You don't think it was used by the grandkid when he was being attacked by battering face? It's not going to be great.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there were so many times where, if that is the thing that everyone does on this ship, or what this ship is known for, then do it and make it a thing.
Yeah.
But it's just like, that was very frustrating to me, for sure.
Yeah.
That was the ship itself, other than seeing the woman on the mast, 5 times in the setup. Like, it didn't. There wasn't anything that made it actual. It was just a platform to tell this what was the word you said? Incredibly adequate story.
Yeah, I think that was
I'm going with it.
that was
I
a
love it.
tough one for the production design, because I think, as Tom said, sometimes the ship looked great. Sometimes it really,
Yeah.
really did. And
Right.
and the problem is when it didn't. Okay, so now let's talk about the monster.
Yes.
This is a Dracula story, so let's talk about Dracula. This is a different take on Dracula. Normally, we have Dracula who is the sexy, the cosmopolitan. Like, this is the kind of Dracula that we get, who at night goes out on the town and does a lot of alleyway stalking. And he's, Anne Rice has interviewed him, and that's the Dracula that is sort of the cultural gestalt. And when you go back to this, like in the, this is more like Last Act Fright Night vampire. As purists, I don't remember the description of Dracula, but this actually, the design of Dracula and the performance of Dracula by Javier Botet, I think actually was good to me. I liked him. Seems like you guys probably didn't.
I liked it until I didn't. I thought it was admirable how they hid the full form for a while, and it was just sort of in the corner or like curled up and stuff. I always find that to be much more exciting. And then they showed it too much.
Yep.
And it sort of lost its ability. And then once it can fly, it's no longer Alien on a boat. It's no longer Alien anything. It's Superman fighting a bunch of idiots. Like, it's just not fun anymore, because I wanted it to be more like The Descent, a horror movie where you're always just seeing these deformed, you don't really get a good look at them, but they're always sort of skulking around and using the frame in interesting ways. After a while, once we saw the thing, he was center frame.
Yeah.
They were like, well, we clearly want to show the CGI money that we paid, and they just put him right there, and they did that one fakey, he's running at the camera way too fast, and it's just, you get a flash of that, and they did it 9 times. Yeah.
And that was the worst. I mean, that's the thing. That thing, when they did that, I was like, oh, I don't care. I'm not scared. I'm just like, blah. The 2 times that I liked it, so, and this goes back to what you're talking about, Tom, the 2 set pieces that I liked it is the one, I believe it was Scandinavian on watch, coming up and seeing the creepy thing crawling from
under the, that was great.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
And like, where did you come from? This is the line. And then he attacked.
Yeah.
That was great. The other one is hole in the door with the door locked and creepy Nosferatu standing up into the shop.
Yep.
In the room that you can't get to. Those are great. Those are great ideas. And then, exactly like Tommy said, then they're like, oh, and now he's a beast that we're going to have to do the same thing over and over again. And the flying thing, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if he can fly, I mean, I get it. It's part of the lore, but like, it doesn't make any sense for this story anymore. You've lost it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that was for me, that was the snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, because I love the comparison to The Descent, Tom, because what The Descent does so beautifully is, as the monster increases or the monsters increase in sort of presence, the world gets smaller. And when they came up with the plan to scuttle the ship, I thought, this is fantastic, because they've added now the ticking clock of a ship filling up with water. And that means, by necessity, the available space to run and hide is getting smaller, is getting compressed. We're going to be able to do wonderful things with that. But God, it flies now. Everything's pointless, because now you have to take the movie above deck. You have to get out in the air, because you've just spent all this money on wings on this thing. Like, it just was
right.
It was way too, like, I approach this, we talk so often about Watsonian versus Doyleist presentation, and this was such a Doyleist third act, right? The end of the second act was a snooze, and the third act was just, we've got to put everything we put into this movie on screen, and forgot the quality of the film that existed when the kid was being threatened in that office, and when the thing was scuttling around and in the dark corners. That's the movie that they had it. They had it, and they let it go.
Yeah.
So,
and they forgot to drive the ship into the ocean. That seemed to be the point. Like, even the captain was like, I'll sail it into the ocean. He'll never reach land. Full speed ahead towards London the whole time. You have ropes. Turn the boat around. No one thought to do that.
As a non-sailor, like, I don't know what the schematic is like. Like, can you just always see land when you're a sailing ship like that? Like, it felt like they could just always see the land.
As a real schooner head myself. Oh, what, JJ? Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, well, there's that. And then the fact that they had lifeboats.
Yeah.
They had more than one lifeboat.
Yes.
For their crew of 7. Which
that's right.
They had
really
one for each.
One is for the cook.
Right.
And one is for the chickens.
And then why does Nosferatu care about the cook escaping? Like the cook escapes and then is killed on the lifeboat. But what is the
It's like it's like drive-through.
There's no motivation for the thing that's happening there.
No.
To actually happen.
Right.
And that we get into a number of story points that are like that. I mean, the multiple cases that are filled with dirt and one with a woman in it. But what are the other? Is there a Dracula reason why that we carry a bunch of dirt?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Where we go?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the like sacred ground. Like when he sleeps in the ground, he sleeps in sacred ground. So it's effectively he's bringing his bed.
Right. So that's his.
Yeah.
But then we have all these other crates
of dirt.
Like only one of them has a person in it.
Right. Because he only needed one blood bag. She was the blood bag. Right.
But evidently he needed 7 because he killed all these other people too.
Well, only after she got out. Right. And got cleaned up and had so many transfusions. The plan was he's traveling with all of his coffins of dirt and her, the blood bag. And the idea was while he was underneath, then he would open up at night with his fancy
room service,
and he would have a snack and put her back to bed and just not kill her and then keep eating off of her for the 7 days when he needed the ship to go. But her casket broke and she was not available. So that's what made him so hungry. And he had to get out and scull around and start killing crew.
So that changes the story completely for my understanding of the story, in that it really is the fault of the fact that they rescued this woman, that all of this happened. It isn't just like literally had they not rescued the blood bag, the story changes completely.
But it really, you go back for even further. It's the idiot who let go of the rope that caused her casket to be damaged. It's the grandkid that needed to be rescued. Like, it's a cascading set of failures. Like, I get that. But what are they going to do? Like, that is a Watsonian response in that thing. Like, you see a body coming out of the dirt and it's alive, you're going to rescue it if you're a Dr. Strontimer.
That's what Clemens does.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, so like, and the rest of the crew, and the weird thing of like the superstition that has to be with women in particular being on ships, which is I guess a known stereotype of the schooner heads, Tommy.
Yeah,
but
Tommy and his ilk.
out.
Right, but like all of a sudden we've reinforced the superstition, or maybe we've created the origin of the superstition. I don't know, but like, it's really interesting. Like, I didn't understand any of that logic that you just taught me. So I thank you for that.
But does
like,
that make it better?
No, it makes it worse. That's the point. Like, literally saying that they were all right in their superstition, that if we just hadn't rescued this one person, if we just hadn't saved the cat, the story would have been fine.
But I don't think it would. Like, what should they have done from a Watsonian perspective?
There's not no.
What should they have done?
There's no.
Right. They found a body that was alive and they have a doctor. I don't see any other way. If you've written yourself into a corner like that, the only way you write yourself out is to rescue the blood bag.
So this entire story is every decision we've made has made our situation worse. And there's no way to make any other decision. Like, it's actually not a good story.
Well, because
to watch,
the other end, JJ, is if we go by the sailors, they found the body and the body was alive. They throw the body overboard. That changes zero, because Dracula still wakes up hungry and now doesn't have a blood bag.
Let's go.
Either way, he doesn't have a blood bag.
Terrible.
Do you know? Because do you know what the other boxes full of dirt were?
I don't.
Like clean sheets.
Fresh bed.
That was one of the most frustrating things that when they were doing there's this whole section where they're doing the investigation of the caskets. And I'm calling them caskets, but that's me being generous. I don't think they ever made an association with those as casket-shaped boxes. That was ridiculous. So they're prying off all the lids, and all he does to check the dirt is like run his hands through the dirt, and he stabbed one with his crowbar and said, "Nope, I guess there's no bodies in here," which I thought was like the least thorough Scooby investigation I've ever seen.
Well, there was a really weird cut reaction when he opened the second one while she's figuring out, hey, there's like a fun escape room box over here. He opens the second one and goes, and then they do the reverse and it's just dirt.
It's just dirt.
Did you see that? It was really weird. Like something else was,
himself.
I think. Yeah, dirt. It's so weird. There was a little bit of that. And there was also a lot of dialogue being delivered when that person was not on screen. So even though they had so much time to write this, and seems like 900 people wrote it and made revisions, they then in post had to make some severe revision because there's
give me
whole
some examples,
part,
like the stuff that you noticed that stood out.
like let's see, why London? There's this whole part where they're both in shadows, and it's as if a test audience was like, "Why does he want to go to London?" And they had to explain
so
it.
the actors say, "Why do we want to go to London?"
Why London? Like they're in the middle of the search, so it's not organic. And he goes, "Why London?" And I don't remember what she says. I think she says like the nightlife or something. I don't remember what she says, but it's done in shadow, really, really hurriedly. And then all of a sudden they're there, and they're clearly had been talking. Yeah. There was a couple of those of just needing to explain things that it was like, I was too bored to even wonder.
Well, and that's why I think it's complicated. The adaptation is a big swing, because so many of those questions that likely flummoxed modern audiences were answered in the chapter immediately before the captain's log and addressed immediately after the captain's log. Like, how do you adapt a chapter of a massive classic book like this and not have opportunities where you have to over-explain stuff? It doesn't, you don't have a whole movie if you don't do that. And I think what they ended up with was aspirational at best, right? Like it was a big swing, and it could have been awesome. It was not awesome, but still a big swing. Tom, go ahead.
I remember what she said. He said, "Why London?" She goes, "Because my town, it can't subsist. He can't.
There's no one left to feed in.
There's no one left to feed." And I was like, I saw a pretty bustling seaport.
Well, and
like, why don't you move there? Why do you have to move across the water? Just like rent a new place. No, everything that you just said is right. One of the things that really would have helped this movie would have been characterization.
Yeah.
And instead we got Beardy number 1, Beardy number 2, Beardy number 3.
Bingo.
And they all talked exactly the same way. The kid was great. The captain is cool because you recognize him. Everyone else, I rarely knew who I was looking at.
Yeah.
Like who. Yeah. And so and you have time. You're just walking around eating potatoes. You have time to give these people like real specific stuff. And instead they're all gruff. They're all mean. They're all superstitious, and they're all bearded.
Yeah. 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 That is.
I don't know why I want that piece of audio separated. I want that I want that to be a loop.
It's already a ringtone.
What could have made the movie better is if they took the dwarves from the Battle of the Five Armies and made them the crew of the Demeter.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The sort of crossbreeding of this tiny story here and this tiny chapter here, and just like, oh, yeah.
And you open the coffin and it's Arwen, the wood elf, buried in so much dirt. She's so dirty. Bear McCreary did the music. Did you have any love for McCreary's score on this one?
Right down the middle.
Yep. Which is
right down
really
the middle. And I was like,
I
bet when the kid dies, they're going to do a child's choir. They did. It's like, I could have done it, and I don't know how to compose or anything. And it's like, this is just straight.
Yeah.
Speaking of the child dying, that seemed hateful. The movie hadn't earned lighting the child on fire like that. After we saw how painful it was for Beardy number 4 when it happened to him, I was like, when he was first being bit, I was like, oh, okay, like that is a line. You already killed the dog. We can see how this goes. But then to double kill him in such a painful way was not. You have to earn that.
They double killed him.
Yeah,
they did. They double killed
him. And then
but
the salt water probably stung
so hard. Everybody who fell into the salt water got stung bad.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that's interesting as we lean in on dead children by vampirism. I was more shocked when they killed the dog than when they killed the
Well,
child.
that's what I was going to say. We should know that if you lead with killing the livestock and the one friendly animal, the movie's going to be terrible.
No one's protected.
Like, first of all, in any film, killing the dog feels like a cop-out to me. Maybe the John Wick trilogy, not counting. But every other one where it isn't a major plot point, it's like, oh, here's the cop-out. This thing. Well, was the first clue they had in this movie, and it should have been the first clue for us as audience members.
Do we remember the way the book handles death of children? I don't either.
I don't remember there being a child on board.
I don't either, but I don't have a recent memory of the book. But what I do know is that as I've said many times before, my scariest, most formative childhood horror movie experience was Salem's Lot. The kids, the way the kid is handled there is transformed into a vampire. And so kids become vampires, and that sucks for everybody. But that, to me, is central to vampire lore. At some point, there's going to be a child vampire, because that is like they're going to die, they're going to burn up, they're going to be turned into vampires. That's the vampire Lestat thing. Children get violated in vampire movies. And so that didn't surprise me a single bit. And because I liked the way the room was presented, his initial dining sequence, I thought was I thought that was compelling. Now the fact that I wasn't surprised at all is probably more telling. And the fact that he burned again, it was another one of those straight down the middle. Like, of course was bit, and of course the forlorn grandfather is going to be the one to rip open the sack and expose him to sunlight, and of course there's going to be a horrific fire. It just that part didn't feel like, to your point, Tom, earned for sure, but expected. Yeah, I did expect it.
This movie, I guess I was taken aback because this movie is very uneven, but it's very uneven with how gory it is and how little it's interested in kills. Like, almost all the kills are a shadowy figure racing across the screen, and then someone going, oh, and then dying, like, with horrible things coming off. Like, it's not usually one involves the other a little bit more. This one just wanted to race to the blood, which I have no interest in.
The one that was the kid was interesting because it is a great shot when they're looking through the locked door that is now broken, and you see the Dracula standing there holding the child off the ground and devouring his neck, is haunting. It is a horrible shot. And the last one where granted, we see too much of the beast, but he's holding Clemens up and has the fingernail where he slices his neck after he says, Clemens says, "I don't fear you." I thought that was a cool exchange, although brief, and then back to chaos, third act chaos. I thought that was that was demonstration that there is an interesting relationship potential between Dracula and the kills, and nothing else exposed that but those two sequences for me.
That makes sense.
Oh, wow. Speaking of The Descent, Neil Marshall was on board to direct at one point.
Yes.
So many.
Isn't that fascinating?
So many.
Isn't that fascinating?
What can we talk about the history of this? You said 1993. I can't even get my head around all of the bullet points you listed in the history of the
Pete listed the entire
path.
Incredibly bumpy and long development history of this movie, which has been going on, which I think they're still trying to make it.
Yeah.
Well,
they're getting real close.
Yeah.
This is the workshopping version.
Yeah. Well, so it was Bragi Shute Jr. who started writing while working at a miniature model shop in Hollywood on Bram Stoker's Dracula, Coppola's Dracula in 1990. That was obviously a 92 film. So possibly 1991 they started. It's 2023 now, y'all.
Unbelievable.
This has been a long, long road. Phoenix Pictures had it at one point. Robert Schwenke set to direct and rewrite the script with Mitch Bryan. James Hart, screenwriter of Bram Stoker's Dracula, submitted a new draft of the script in 2006. Now we're 15 years later and we're still trying to get this done. Marcus Nispel replaced Schwenke.
15 years later, 17 years ago.
17 years ago, yeah, right. May 2009, new director. Production supposed to begin the same year. Due to difficulties with the period setting and filming on water, and don't forget working with kids and animals, Nispel departed and was replaced by Stefan Rozowitzki in March 2010. Producers would be Mike Medavoy, Arnold Messer, and Bradley J. Fisher. Fisher met with,
and they stuck around, right?
Noomi Rapace in 2010 to discuss the film. What would Noomi have done with this movie? He made revisions to the script again, cast Rapace and Ben Kingsley in October of 2010. Rosakowski.
Wait, who was Ben Kingsley going to be?
Project.
Clemens?
Would he be the captain?
Captain? Yeah, I would imagine he would have been the captain.
Okay, that makes more sense.
David Slade joined the project as director in 2011, but Rapace left because of Prometheus, which she left because of Prometheus.
Fire into another fire.
Jude Law was in talks to play the lead role after Rapace's departure. Despite signing on to a Daredevil film, Slade reassured in April 2011 that the project was still in progress. Neil Marshall and Millennium Films.
Good thing that schedule got cleared up in 2011. Just saying.
Neil Marshall and Millennium Films joined the project to direct and produce in 2012.
My kids weren't even born yet.
No.
You realize?
Yeah, this is rough. In
In
June, Viggo Mortensen began talks for the lead role. Kingsley was still in it, but Rapace was all but gone. 2014, Marshall, like the directors before him, remained hopeful about the film, but left the project. André Øvredal became the director in 2019 with Amblin Partners, right? So now we have the Spielberg connection obtaining the rights. Corey Hawkins joined in January 2021 with an entirely new draft by Zach Olkewicz. December 2022, Shoot Jr. and Olkewicz received screenplay credit. Shoot Jr. received story credit. Brian Cauffiel, Hart, Rizikowski, and Schwenke credited with additional off-screen literary material. This is a winding road.
It's interesting the amount of...
I think we're going to get off-screen literary
It's possible they're going to go back and do an edit.
That's a fair amount of Caucasian actors at one point playing a role that is really his one. It's the only thing that defines him versus other people is the fact that he's African-American, and talks about that. That's interesting. Yeah. Like if you took that away, that character becomes as much of a cipher as the other people.
Precisely.
Volchak!
Right. I like Corey Hawkins. And
he's great.
I thought he was great, and I didn't think that the addition of the racial profiling angle, right? Like black doctor, black can't get a job, black all this stuff. I thought it was handled really nicely for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought it was well executed. I wish the rest of the movie was as sincere. So, this is a rough time for this movie. Like I called it a bomb in the beginning. They had projected $6 to $11 million opening weekend. It hit 6.5. It's not good. And they opened like it's still on the heels where people are seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer multiple times. Like this is a rough season to open. It opened opposite Talk to Me from Blumhouse and Haunted Mansion from Disney. If you want your spooky stories, there are other arguably bigger pictures to see. And they didn't call it Dracula. Like I actually deeply wonder if they'd put Dracula in the name like they did in Australia. The Australian release is Dracula, Last Voyage of the Demeter. Like that's a better title. I think tell people what they're getting, and maybe they'd be more interested in exploring it. So a lot of things standing against this movie.
I think that Dracula is the only thing to sell this movie. I mean, I asked before, like, who is the movie? Who wants to see this movie? Even today, like, I don't know who I'm going to tell this movie to. Mm-hmm. I don't know who's going to hear the story and think, oh yeah, I want to see that. Even if it was good. How do you sell it? It's just a vampire. It's a vampire. It's a Dracula movie. It's a vampire movie. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's all it's got right now. There's nothing interesting compared to anything that's in the theaters today.
Well, let's just armchair a little bit. If you're Amblin Studios, the way this movie ends, leaning in on the fact that it's a movie that technically has no ending, They get to England. They get to Sweeney Todd. And at the end, Dracula is dressed finally as a man, still with bad teeth, big hat over, but he has the cane that has been an affectation, a weird focus, like an unusable focus on the ship, and our principal Corey Hawkins' character Clemens has survived. That's the thing that we didn't know, because the ship in the beginning, everybody was dead in the ship, but it's because Hawkins made it off the ship. And now Hawkins has dedicated his life to take on the mantle of the only other character that I know that could fit that mantle is Van Helsing. I don't, and so that's already taken somewhere else. So here's Clemens is Van Helsing, and he is dedicating his life to stamping out the evil that is Dracula. And we end on a cliffhanger, walking down a dark alley.
I really thought when he was like, he was looking at stuff, he's like, I can follow this, but I know someone who can. And then he has like a newspaper article for Van Helsing. I thought they were going to try to at least connect it. His name is Hawkins, Jonathan Harkness?
Yes.
Harkness is the, for lack of better term, Lucy and Harkness, like to bring it to them.
Yeah.
Close it off. But instead there's just this guy who we've read the book. He doesn't do anything. He walks out of that bar and falls into the river or something because he's not around. Yeah.
Right. I think that's the thing that that's where this, if we were interested in, that's where the speculation would go. Is this yet another attempt at entering the Monsterverse from a different direction? I don't think this was the key.
No. No, it was just so frustrating.
No, I think if we're really thinking about that, I still think, strangely enough, I think Mummy, which was not a good movie,
it had more charisma.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Much better.
All right. Well, let's do just a brief bit of housekeeping, can we? Because I have notes, I have updates for those who are following along in Discord. I've been hard at work in Discord. I'm making lots of changes. I'm making big moves. And
you really are.
So
you're really
doing
tippy
so
tappy.
much. I was really tippy tappy. And so Discord now, thenextreel.com/Discord will take you to our general invitation page. You can accept that and join our server. There are a lot more public channels now. So we're trying to open up more discussion across the communities at True Story, and we would love to have you there. So if you're a fan of WTS Presents All the Feelings with me and Tom, or you're a fan of The Next Reel with me and Andy, or if you're a fan of The Man Cave with Mandy and Mandy, or if you're a fan of any of the other shows that we do, it's a great place to go talk about movies and pop culture and all kinds of fun stuff. So we invite you to do that, even if you don't become a member. Though, what I hope you find is when you get there, you say, hey, I'd like to support what these guys are doing because it's really cool. And I'll go to thenextreel.com/membership and I'll do it right now. And I'll throw a couple of bucks at the show. And because I want them to keep producing all this great content. And I'm going to share my winnings with them because we live in a complicated economy and we got to help each other, Yeah. So,
and we saw Demeter for you.
We did.
We saw Demeter, so you don't have to. You want us on this wall. You need us on this wall.
In fact, you could say we saved you $5.
Yep.
$12.
Yes.
$5.
1985.
Okay.
Yeah. See a movie and get a phosphate.
That leads us. That really sweet transition leads us right into Letterboxd. You can find all the stuff we do at Letterboxd. Letterboxd.com/thenextreel is our HQ page, and we want to see how are we possibly going to rank this thing on Letterboxd out of 5 stars, a heart to indicate if it's a guilty pleasure. Where do you go, Tommy?
Well, 2. I'm going to say 2 stars out of 5 because it is adequate. It is competent. It is just not good at what it tries to do, and so also no heart. There's almost no reason. The only reason to watch this movie again is I thought the little boy was very charming and very good. I thought he was really cool. Everything else, I just had nothing to come back for, because even good actors were saddled with nothing to do except scream Vortex.
Yeah, JJ, I imagine you're not going to be as kind.
No, I gave it a 1. And I kind of tried to add a half star in there a little bit to give it something, but it really is a 1. And, with my new appreciation for horror, when it's not good horror, then it's even worse for me because it's the kind of thing like I'm taking a leap by seeing this movie. I don't really want to choose to be scared most of the time. So you gotta give me something.
Right.
And this movie gave me nothing. I'm not gonna recommend it to anybody. I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that's a movie I saw.
Yeah.
Again, like right, like, and maybe be embarrassed to admit it. So I gave it a 1 and no heart. And again, if I can figure out someone to share this movie with, then maybe. But right now, it's a big no.
Well, I'm a 2 as well, and I worry a little bit about that because I came in, I think, higher than you guys, and if I go by the IMDb 6-star rule, if it's 6 stars or over, then out of their scale of 10, then it's worth watching, and I came in at 4 technically. That's really a bad movie. That's a bad movie, you guys, and I feel guilty about it. I'm not going to change it. Like at 2 stars, that's sort of my experience, and no heart. I don't love it guiltily. I just don't love it. So I'm sorry about the Demeter, mostly because I went in with very high hopes, and I think that this was a bunch of really weird left turns. Maybe it needed more left turns. I don't know. It didn't.
Yep.
Didn't land well.
I will say this for it. It's shorter than Oppenheimer.
And funnier?
A little bit.
As always, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out. We've already done the hard work of choosing what next month's movie is going to be. We're going to have to wait till the very end of the movie. It is, well, it's the A24 whistle, the A24 called, and we are answering. The 29th of September is going to be Dick's The Musical. I know. Right. I know what you're saying. You're saying, but Pete, that title is so stupid. We are reserving judgment because the trailer looks great. So we're going to play the trailer right now. You can go listen to it as soon as we're done here and then go watch it. It looks funny and we're very, very excited about it because we're real musical lovers in addition to scooter heads.
If there ever were a more appropriate movie for a group of us to watch, I just don't know.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Don't forget to join our online community. That link again is thenextreel.com/discord and thenextreel.com/membership. That'll get you into the membership. Do all the stuff you're supposed to do with your podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe, and of course, listen. But most importantly, please share. Let any of those movie lovers that you love know not to see the Demeter, but to come listen to us talk about it right here on the Film Board. Meeting adjourned. Well, because I think of a number of reasons of rescheduling and all kinds of things, we have no one hanging out in the live stream with us. But
sorry.
Also because who would have seen this movie as urgently as we did? I haven't seen... We saw it at the Century Cedar Hills, JJ, and this was the last theater on the right. I haven't seen a movie. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a movie in this theater. It was a big screen TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Tiny. I was in that theater too.
Yeah.
It was, so small.
There was one other person
on the right.
There's one other person in the theater, and I think they went to the bathroom like 7 times.
So I saw it with Rosie, and there was someone who came up and was sitting next to her on the end because we try to kind of make room all the time. Yeah. He came up and sat there, and he left after about 15 minutes. Left all of his food and everything, and never came back.
Wow!
Wow!
He's like one of the crew of the Demeter. Yeah. Watching the restroom burst into flames.